all the different approaches. Education, information, counseling for improving behavioral changing, usage of condoms. We have to consider treatment. We have to consider biomedical strategy like circumcision and maybe others like specific microbicid in the future. But we have one component here that we have to keep in mind, which is today one of the major obstacles for the testing of HIV individual. We have today too much stigmatization, discrimination against HIV-infected individuals, and as a consequence, people don't go for the test. And this is really one key issue if we want to improve the proportion of patients that go for the test and will benefit earlier of the treatment in the future. HIV vaccine history, few words. It started in 1987 already with the first phase 1 trial. Very empiric approach since between 87 and 2007, more than 110 trials with about 67 products used as vaccine candidate in almost 30,000 human volunteers. What we could say at the beginning in the phase 1 to trial is that the vaccine were usually safe, and some of them were showing some immunogenicity, and we had to wait 2003 to have the first data of the first phase 3 efficacy trial by a vaccine candidate of vaccine, which was corresponding to the envelope of the virus, but the monomeric form of the envelope. And this trial clearly show a lack of efficacy of the recombinant, monomeric recombinant GP120. We had to wait 2007 to have the data of the second efficacy trial called the STEP trial and the Pambili phase 2B trial, using as a candidate adenovirus type 5, including the GAG gene, POL gene, and NEF gene of HIV-1. Indeed, as you probably heard, this trial was stopped. Was stopped not only because there was a lack of efficacy, because of some of the volunteers showed that were vaccinated, we showed even an increased level of infection. And we had to wait September, October 2009 to heard about the study that was performed here in Thailand, the RV144 trials in collaboration with colleagues in the United States, using what we call the prime boost approach, coming to prime the immune response with the first vaccine, with the first immunogen, and the immunogen used was Camnarypox, containing the GAG, POL, and NF gene of HIV-1, and coming after with a boost with, as a candidate, the recombinant GP120 of HIV-1, both type of HIV-1, the subtype B and the recombinant form that is circulating here in the region in Thailand. The results, you know it, very modest effect, only 30% of efficacy. And we have still ongoing trial today. But what the Thai trial tells us? It has been done on 60,000, more than 60,000 volunteers here. You can see my first reaction when they ask me, what do you think about the results of the Thai results? I say, my God, this is wonderful. The classical education information program is working perfectly well. Only 125 infections out of 16,000 volunteers. That means when you educate, you make good counseling, the preventive methods are used. are really working. In this trial, 74 control were infected, 51 of the vaccinee were infected, so that means, as I said, 30% of protection. So everybody was excited because it was the first time that at least we showed some efficacy. But we know that 30% of efficacy is not sufficient, that we need at least 50% of efficacy. But at least we have new questions that we can ask based on this vaccine trial, new scientific question. Maybe the strategy that was used, the prime boost strategy, is a good one. We don't have the good immunogen, but maybe we have the good strategy, and we have to work on that, and already I know that people are thinking of doing it. We also might learn from the vaccinee about those that were the lucky ones that were protected. Which mechanism of protection they have developed after vaccination. And this is a key issue because we don't know. And we might have to revise even our endpoint for evaluation of vaccine because in the group of vaccinees that were not unfortunately protected, indeed, when you compare to the control group, we found out that the level of the viral load in both groups was the same. So for efficacy, usually we measure the viral load. Maybe not the right things to do. So we certainly will learn from those vaccinees and from other vaccine trials that are ongoing to develop the new strategy of tomorrow. We will certainly learn also from other models of protection in addition to the protected vaccinees. We have those people that are exposed but not infected. It was the case, you probably heard about those prostitutes in Nairobi that were naturally controlling their infection without any protection. We had the model of protection, and this interesting model, what we call the elite controllers. They are not protected against HIV infection, but they are infected. They are HIV-1 positive, but they do not develop AIDS. They never receive any antiretroviral treatment. They have been infected, for some of them, since more than 15 years. They represent a very small proportion of HIV-infected individuals, only less than 0.3% of HIV individuals. But they perfectly control well the replication of the virus. They have undetectable viral load. And of course, one of our dreams is for vaccine to transform HIV positive individuals in elite controller. We have another model which is quite complementary, I must say, because the mechanism of protection against not HIV infection, against the development of AIDS, is totally different. It's a monkey in Africa from which HIV originates. Indeed, those monkeys are natural hosts in natura of a virus very close from HIV, SIV. But in Africa, those monkeys do not develop AIDS. The virus replicates. They are not elite controller at all. You can detect viral load. You can detect virus replication in the monkey in their blood. But the difference is